Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about guaranteed money and incentives, and this is going to be fun. For me anyway. I don't know about y'all, but this is going to be fun for me. So this is one of the things that I've seen come out of this whole Peacock deal. Is that Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez are not running around saying that, well, this kills any incentive for them to actually put any effort into the B shows or the pay-per-views or anything like that. So we're going to listen to them talk about this. Well, listen to Dave Meltzer stumble his way through it. And I will give you my thoughts. It's actually not a long clip. Shout out to Meltzer Says What on Twitter for clipping this, and I happened to come across it. So let's listen to Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez talk about this, and then I'll give my thoughts. Matter of fact, we might not even listen to the whole clip. We might just listen to the pertinent parts.
Streaming content is bringing in as much money as the TV shows. Do you think more effort will be put into the monthly pay-per-views? Seems outside of WrestleMania, a lot of pay-per-view matches have been filler set up at the last minute. Well, that includes the Royal Rumble, by the way.
Good Lord, I don't even know what the Royal Rumble card is. And where we just had the last bra. I had to ask, and I don't even have my answer yet, on a couple of questions on the card for Sunday. So, I do not, I believe the opposite. I believe that the money's guaranteed, and that lowers the incentive. I wish they had my work ethic, because for me it would make no difference whatsoever. But I've watched ever since the network where you don't have to, with pay-per-view, you had to promote every pay-per-view because it was an individual buy. So you had to convince people every month that they had to get this pay-per-view or you're getting no money. With a network, and it's $60, so every buy was like important, 50, 60, 70, whatever the price was, depending on the pay-per-view and everything. So it's like every buy becomes important. With a network, it's like it's $10, and most people who are getting those pay-per-views are going to get the network anyway, and except for Mania, because even SummerSlam doesn't swell network numbers. So it's like, unless it's Mania, they're really, the pressure on putting on a show and building up matches for weeks at a time and all that isn't really there.
All right, so that's Dave Meltzer talking about incentives. I'm going to excuse his part about, if they have my work ethic. Bullshit. He puts out a bunch of bad information, which is full of run-on sentences, is misspelling, and a bunch of other shit. His work ethic is trash. He may work hard, but he's just digging holes because, he only barely gets shit done. But here's the thing. He is not wrong. Okay, guaranteed money does kill the incentive. When you have guaranteed money coming in, you don't have to put so much incentive into what you're doing. It creates security. And when security is created, you can get lazy. I mean, that is an absolute economic fact. The argument that we don't know what the card is for Royal Rumble is like, 5 matches for Royal Rumble. You know that the Tag Team Championship women's match, Charlotte and Asuka versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, the 2 Royal Rumble matches, and the 2 title matches. That's 5 matches on the card. You know most of the card already. If you go back to the Attitude Era, a lot of matches were thrown together too. Like, you actually think they sat down and built up, what was this, Al Snow versus the Big Boss Man on some show? Most of those matches were thrown together at the last minute. They were driving those shows via the top stars, the main events. They were allowing the main events to drive the show, which is what they're doing now. They're letting people say the Royal Rumble is the draw. So who the fuck cares what other matches are taking place? You're going to watch the Royal Rumble to see the Royal Rumble, and they have the 2 title matches as well. So that argument, of course, is ludicrous. If you have to ask questions like, what's going to be on the card? It's like, the show is going to be short because they're only promoting 5 matches. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. And then 2 of them are hour-long matches. So come on, let's be real here. But he's right. There was more incentive to work harder and put more effort into your storylines and building characters and stuff like that when you had to convince people to pay $30 or $40 or $50 or whatever for your show. You do have to put in more effort. That is true. But here's the crazy thing. That's true of every situation where there's guaranteed money, which means it's also true of the workers, the actual athletes who have guaranteed contracts. it's true of them too. So if you see guys that are not putting in the effort, they're not putting in the work, they're trying to rest on their laurels from what they did in Japan or what they did in the Indies, that kind of thing. You have the same situation. It's guaranteed money. You get paid regardless of how you perform. So you get lazy. It's one of my favorite punching bags on this channel for new subscribers is unions, and that's absolutely a union problem. In a union, you have so much security that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to. There's no incentive for you to work harder. No incentive for you to work longer, because you can't be fired. Well, it's very hard to fire you. Let's not get too ridiculous. It's very hard to fire you, and your money is guaranteed, which means so you get far more security than you really kind of need. But that's true. It will kill the incentives. But Vince McMahon is the hardest working man in the world. This dude is 70 some odd years old. He's probably going to work through his brother's funeral. Questioning his work ethic is absolutely ridiculous. Now, there may be certain people who may say, well, we don't have to work as hard. We can slapdash some of these things. And that's true. There's always going to be those people, and those people will always exist. But I wouldn't question their work ethic. But I will say that the incentive for the B shows and stuff to get better, there's not that many. There's not that much incentive for the B shows to get better. But that disappeared a long time ago anyway, because when WWE essentially killed off WCW, the incentive to make better B shows died. The incentive to make better shows died when the competition died. And every time the competition dies, it kills the incentive to make better shows. You can see even in AEW, when they started consistently beating NXT, the shows got worse and worse. Because now they're saying, well, people would just watch our show regardless of what NXT does. So we can just coast and do 10-minute match between Peter Avalon and Cody. That's the thing about security. When you give somebody security, they can take it for granted. That is an absolute fact. It's the same thing in relationships. You marry somebody and they change their behavior, right? Like if you was dating a girl, she may do whatever you want, be the most submissive, nice, most wonderful woman in the world. But then you get married, and all of a sudden she stops working out. All of a sudden she's nagging more. All of a sudden everything you do is wrong, because she's like, you're not going anywhere, right? And if you got kids and you got that child support problem, she just got so much security that she now can flip her behavior. It's the same with everybody. Like, these things are sort of natural orders, right? That's kind of how the world works. If you give somebody too much security, they will slack off. And so Dave Meltzer is not wrong. He is not wrong. But I don't believe that they're going to all of a sudden stop caring about their product because, well, we get $1 billion anyway. That's not what happened with SmackDown. SmackDown got better over time. Now, obviously, it's just a year, right? It's just a year. We don't know what it's going to look like by the end of the contract or whatever. But it's just a year. But you could say the same thing even with other sports. As athletes did kind of get better as the guaranteed money, but they became better at picking athletes too, because they became far more stringent on what athletes can do, what they can say, and stuff like that. And they did get a little bit better, but that's just the way of the world. Guaranteed money does kill the incentive. It does. It kills the hunger within. It's like, when you're in the house, predators, like people who go out and they hunt, they tend to be in better shape than people who have food brought to them. Like a wild dog is usually going to be in better shape than the dog that you feed out of a bag, because he knows if he's hungry, he's got to go out and hunt. His skills are going to be sharper. He's going to know what he's looking at. He's going to know what he's looking for. So, yeah, that all of that is true, but it's not just WWE. It's also AEW, because, and I said this in a different video. I believe it was on the Conan Disco Inferno channel, where I talked about Tony Khan being a billionaire. There's no real incentive for him to guarantee AEW is going to make any money, right? Because he doesn't need money. So for him, it's a project. So he really doesn't have that much of an incentive to make money. because you have to be a billionaire in order to run a wrestling company. Well, in perpetuity, like for months and months and months, like to have weekly TV, you need to pretty much be a billionaire. You can't be a small time multimillionaire anymore. You have to be a billionaire because these things are so fragile, you know. So the incentive structure in wrestling is all blown up anyway. And I don't see why. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to turn a positive into a negative because that's what they do. But they're not wrong. It's just a crazy way of looking at it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Spread the good word of 3Count Commentaries by using the hashtag 3Count Commentaries. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah.